Good morning, my beautiful soul followers. I guess it's actually almost afternoon. It is a hot and sunny day here in Texas, and so just sitting on my hammock, taking a moment. And I was thinking about some things that I've been watching lately, some inspirational stuff, and a conversation I had, I think it was yesterday, about habits and resolutions and forcing stuff. And in the spiritual community, we have this idea that you shouldn't ever force something, that it's this feel good. And I am all about the feel good. I am all about really going with what feels good in your life and what feels orgasmic. It's the orgasmic life. It is that orgasmic frequency that we all want to get to. But I've been talking to a lot of people that feel stuck right now and are going into a new year and don't want the new year 2022 to be the same as it was 2021, but they're at the same time going, I don't want to force it. And there's this saying that if you have to force it, then it's shit, which to some degree at times that is exactly true. We want to make sure that things feel good, that they feel aligned, all of that beauty and that bliss. And if we find ourselves constantly forcing, then we have to check internally what's going on. We have to really look at our life and our resistance to things and where we're really just not aligned. At the same time, I feel like we do a disservice in the spiritual community when we talk about not forcing stuff, because sometimes that is exactly what we need to do. That is the aligned thing, is to force stuff. And I know I'm going to get some hate comments on this, but it's the truth. Sometimes we have to fucking force stuff. We have to force it. And what do I mean? Sometimes we have to force a habit. As we're going into New Year's resolutions, and I'm not a huge New Year's resolution fan, I feel like we make these massive goals and a lot of times we fall down on them. A lot of times we make them too big, we fall down, they're not really aligned. But I see a lot of people kind of getting into that mode. We talk about habits, and a lot of times we do have to force a habit. At the very beginning, we have to force a habit. If you are not used to eating healthy, guess what? You're going to have to force yourself for a week or two to eat healthy before you get in that routine, before you start to feel good, before you step into the flow of it. Maybe the first day is good, you're like, oh yeah, I feel good about myself. But usually if you cut, say, sugar out of your diet, all of a sudden on that third day, things get a little harder. And so you have to force it. You have to force yourself to stick with the habit. If you're not used to getting up at 5:30 in the morning, guess what? Most likely you're going to have to force yourself a little bit. You're going to have to force yourself to do a habit that you know in the long run will be healthy, will feel good. It might not feel good right now, but it's going to feel good in the long term. And so yes, you're going to have to force it. And I was having a conversation, like I said, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and it was about motivation. And while there's things all around us that can motivate us, sometimes if we're feeling stuck, we're feeling like we are not getting motivation, we're not getting inspiration sometimes. And again, this goes against a lot of what I hear in the spiritual community. A lot of times we just have to fucking do something. We have to force ourselves to get moving, take some action in order to pull the energy and in order to shift some energy just enough for motivation to come. So I remember years ago, before I was writing consistently, I was taking this course from another beautiful entrepreneur. I was taking this course, and she was a massive prolific writer, and she still is. And I was doing this, she had us doing this exercise where we sat and we wrote, and we did not get up until we had something to write. Now, it didn't have to be perfect. It didn't have to be the best thing we've ever written, but you were going to sit there and you were going to write something. You were going to put the energy in and not allow yourself to get up from the seat until you had put some energy into it. And guess what? After doing that for about a week or two, I started having this creative motivation come in, and I was looking forward to writing. Guess what? I had to force it the first few times because I had all this resistance of, I don't know what to write, what am I going to say, all my bullshit back then. And so I just sat down and I forced myself to take the time to build the habit. And so while we don't want to force our entire lives, because you're right, the spiritual community is right. And I preach this. We want to feel aligned. We want to feel that beautiful pull inside of us. We want to know that we're going in a direction that is going to lead us to where our goals and dreams and desires are. But sometimes we do have to force it. Sometimes we do have to just commit to something in order to get that ball rolling. And sometimes we have resistance that we have to push through. We have to prove to ourselves, no, I can do this. I'm going to force myself to sit down and do what I need to do here. And that is a resistance. That's usually something in our brains that is a cognitive belief system or structure, or it's a lack of our body wanting to deal with that because our physical system isn't used to sitting there and just feeling those feelings, hearing the crazy thoughts in our heads, but staying there anyway, staying centered anyway. Guess what? That takes a little bit of forcing. Meditation. And I know it's like, well, you shouldn't force meditation. Guess what? Sometimes meditation is a force. It's like, no, I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna keep coming back. You keep coming back. Even if you stray away, you keep forcing yourself to come back to the present moment. Come back to that breath. Come back to whatever you're using in your meditative practice, whether it's music, whatever. You force yourself to come back until it becomes, you get into that state where you're not forcing yourself anymore, you're just there. You're in that beautiful space. So as we go into this new year, I think there's a lot of people who are beating themselves up because they're somewhat forcing themselves to do things. And well, if that is your day, if that is like your life, if you're like, oh, I'm forcing myself here, I'm forcing myself there, I'm forcing myself there, then you need to check out your alignment. We should be having a different conversation. But if you believe that everything should be flowing and you shouldn't have to push or put any energy or effort in, and if you're forcing something, then you're bad, guess what? Sometimes to build a habit, we have to force something. And in relationships, because I know people are like, but you haven't mentioned anything about relationships, Addison, and that's what you usually talk about. Guess what? The same thing goes for relationships. Sometimes we're in a struggle. We're in a struggle energy with somebody. Whether that be our children, our intimate partner, our best friend, our colleague, no matter what it is, sometimes we have to force that uncomfortable conversation. We have to force ourselves to connect at a heart level. We have to force ourselves to be in that other person's energy so energy can clear, so we can move through things. Guess what? If you're raging pissed off at your partner, of course, you're going to have to force yourself to sit with that person and look them in the eye and connect. Because guess what? It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to work through conflict. But you have to force yourself to sit there if you really love that person. So another place where we really have to sometimes force ourselves. So, look in your life where maybe it's okay you're forcing yourself a little bit. And look at where maybe you're forcing yourself too much. Where you're forcing yourself into habits is different than forcing yourself to do shit you just aren't aligned with. You're never going to be aligned with. You don't want to do. So, the fact is, at the end of the day, only you know. Only you know you. You are the expert on you. I can sit here and I can be an amazing coach. I can guide. I can shine a light for my clients and my followers. But at the end of the day, you are an expert on your life. And so I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, your questions below. I would love to get the conversation started on this and where you're forcing yourself and where you're going to build the habits in the new year. So, all right, guys. On another note, if you are interested in energy work, if you're in the DFW area or going to be in the DFW area, or you want some coaching, which can be anywhere in the U.S., or anywhere in the world, really. I have a couple clients over in Europe. Then head over to addisonbell.net and check me out. So other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another Addison Unleashed. Love you guys.